Hello everyone, welcome back to Kahaniya Calling. Hope you all had a great Diwali. Now, with the onset of winters, we bring to you a story of warmth and compassion. Let's hear the beautiful story from Dad.
There was once a great ruler who had to go to a distant temple for winter ritual. As was the tradition, the king was getting ready while his guards, his army men were all ready outside the palace to take the king to the temple. The ritual usually happened at a time which was freezing cold. So the king's most trusted minister came out and surveyed everything, and the commander bowed down to him and said, "Everything is ready for His Majesty." I'm sure, I'm sure. I know you have taken care of everything. Yes, my honor. Our most elite soldiers and warriors are there for King's safety. I myself have done the review of everything. The minister said, I have no two doubts on that. However, what concerns me is not the enemy, is not the danger of somebody attacking the king, because everything seems to be at peace. I am more concerned about the harsh winter. Now, at the speed that they need to go and the distance that it is there, it will just get uncomfortably cold in the carriage, despite making all arrangements for it. Exactly. The commander bowed down to the minister and said, I have had the same thing in mind going on. The minister said, yes, keeping this in mind, I have advised the senior most servant to put a blanket for the king so that the travel is somewhat more comfortable. Although the entire carriage will be covered with the blankets, still the winds, the freezing cold will try to get in and it can make the journey a little uncomfortable. Super, that is fantastic. They were both very happy. And at that time, His Majesty, the king, came out. All the servants, the commander in chief, the army, the minister bowed down deeply to the king. The king smiled, nodded to them, and moved to his carriage. As he climbed up the carriage, he was there for a few moments and then he came back down, as if he had forgotten something. He told the minister, you were telling me something about the flood situations yesterday. Can you tell me a little more in detail about it? Sure, Your Majesty. There were only 2,000 people who got displaced by the floods. Fortunately, not much damage could happen because we were proactive. As a result, half of the people, that means about 1,000 people, have been able to find shelters with their family members, their relatives. And the other half, we have made arrangements for them in those shelters, in the temporary shelters, and everything has been taken care of. I myself has checked everything. The king was happy. He said, the people are most important and must be taken care of. Now, I want to tell you something, the minister said. Please, sir. He said, next time, if there is something like this, any natural calamity, anything that creates problem to the people, you must remind me to talk about it in detail. I want to know everything. The minister said, I will make sure that I do this going forward. And while they were talking, they noticed the head servant running in panic, almost perspiring in that winter, and quietly running towards the carriage. The king continued his conversation. The captain noticed, the minister noticed, but the king was constantly talking about, okay, now what do we do next? How do we ensure that those people who have been, lost their homes, how do they get their homes at the earliest? They were having this discussion, and in the meantime, the head servant got into the carriage and came back down. The king just smiled and went back to his carriage and gave a signal to go ahead. The commanders, the army, all the soldiers just went ahead with the king, and after a few moments, the king just could not be noticed. The carriage just disappeared. Now, the captain told the minister, "Did you notice? Did you notice something? This head servant had forgotten the blanket for the king. Now the king must be served with utmost sincerity and focus. The head servant just forgot it. This is not acceptable." And he moved his hand toward his sword and said, Shall I just arrest him?" The minister smiled and said, just calm down. It's okay. But what if His Majesty had noted? He would have got the harshest punishment, and so would be the case with us. The minister was the most trusted minister of the king. He smiled and said, "Do you think the king did not notice this?" But the king is a great ruler not only by name, but by his virtue and the compassion that he shows. As soon as he got into the carriage, he noticed that the blanket was missing. And he was very sure now that the carriage was covered with blanket, there would be a blanket for him. So knowing that this could be a miss from the servant or from any of us, he just wanted to give some more time to the head servant. As a result, without uttering a word, without making any fuss about this, he just came down, purposefully started talking about something that he could have spoken later or might not have spoken at all, so that the head servant got time for this. If the king had raised this, that the blanket was missing, as a tradition in our kingdom, the head servant would get the severest punishment for missing this. The commander now understood everything. He said, "I understand now how compassionate the king is and how much he cares for the people." As a result, not only did he got the respect not only from the servant, but from you, me, and all the army men and all the servants present here. The minister nodded and he said, "Notice that when the blanket got missed, it is not only the head servant who was responsible. Were you sleeping? Was I daydreaming? Is it only the servant at fault? Do you forget that when we point one finger at somebody, the three fingers point back at us? Right?" The captain now understood everything. And they were just mesmerized and taken aback by how seamlessly the king ensured that everybody got time to fix the issue without making a fuss about it. Now, interestingly, in our lives also, if we see our juniors, our subordinates, our colleagues, people who serve us, the maid, the cook, they might all make mistakes, right? And sometimes the mistake is such that despite your best efforts, despite your best intentions, and despite trying to do everything well, things can go wrong. They will. So in the case of, let's say, the head servant, he might have wanted a blanket which is comfortable for the king throughout the long journey and way back. As a result, he might have been looking for another blanket which is best suit for him. rather than picking from the blankets that are easily available. But then these are the things that we cannot normally think. Therefore, we need to think that if we want to move ahead in life, if we want to really grow, we need to have that compassion in life rather than just creating a fuss about it. The king could have created a big fuss, he was the king. This person could have been hanged, so could have been the case of the captain and the minister. But no, we understand it is human nature. We are not perfect. We will make mistakes, things will happen. It's just about the maturity that we need to understand that is it fine or is it crossing the line? Now, having said this, I must re-emphasize, it doesn't mean that somebody who makes the same mistake over and over and over and over again, we keep on forgiving them and show compassion. No. That time, you need to get a little harsh, you need to reprimand them, and you need to make them understand. But then, not at every smallest thing. Remember what the minister said, that was the captain sleeping or was he daydreaming? They could have been punished for this as well, right? So just recall from the story the vow of silence. If I do something wrong, it's absolutely fine. But if you do it, you are ill prepared, you are stupid, you are not giving your 100%. Doesn't most of us behave like this? That's something that we need to think. Now let's take another step into what happened. King did not want any affirmation from the external parties. He ensured that he gave the time. When things were fixed, he just moved on. Today, most of us need affirmations from outside world for things that we have done and even for things that we are happy about. First thing is WhatsApp status, putting it in Facebook, putting it on Instagram, looking at how many people like it, how many people comment on it. That defines our happiness. But is that true happiness? Now, let's take a simple example that somebody goes to a movie and they are really enjoying the movie. But the focus is so much that the status will first come at the theater enjoying the movie. Excuse me? If you are enjoying the movie, you better enjoy the moment. Be in the movie. It should not be your status. So the external affirmations, the external validations that we need has grown many folds. And we just fail to understand that certain things we need no external validation. Compassion is one of them. It needs to be as seamless as the king portrayed. And this is a lesson to be learned for all of us. Thank you.
Don't forget to like, subscribe and share our channel, and do leave your comments.